And all of us saw each other last week, so it's kind of
What's
nice.
that?
We all saw each other last week, so
Oh,
it's
at
kind of
bridging. I have so much FOMO about bridging the gap. I've been yes, I can't believe I next year. I must go next year. I went last
Oh
year
yeah, it was a
in
good
Chicago.
one.
Yeah.
It was
All
fun.
right. All right, we're back. Happy Tuesday slash M&A Summit Day. We just got off. I know many folks are leaving the dream multiples. We heard from buyers and brokers talking about the craziness in the marketplace. I think if there's one phrase, I think each one said, they said, I remember, I think it was Jason. Jason said, it's not art, it's not science, it's chaos. Right? He said, this is the market out there is just wild. But we heard it from the broker perspective. We heard it from the buyer perspective. But what about folks that have transacted? What about the ones who have sold? So I'm excited to bring Sharon and Justine and Matthew on to today's panel, the I Sold My Firm panel. We'll do a brief round of intros. And for the audience, this is a very interactive panel. So I have some questions to kind of get the ball rolling. But you are talking to fellow operators, folks in the trenches, just like you. You want the real deal. You want the transparent truth. This panel is your time. So type into the Q&A any question you have for them. This is the time to get the real meat of the matter. But that said, I'm excited to have everybody on. We'll do a quick round of intros and we'll go through some initial questions. Sharon, do you want to kick us off with a quick intro and then we'll go Justine and then Matthew?
I would love to. My name's Sharon Fuller. I've been in the accounting industry since about 2006 when I started my first business as a bookkeeper and office manager, and somehow grew into a fractional controller CFO. Sold that sucker in 2021. With my firm, we specialize in VC-backed startups, software as a service. So I cannot tell you how many rounds of due diligence and M&A I sat through, but I learned everything after the ink dried on my own cell. So I stayed on for a little bit, decided I was not employable by another company, especially one that has a board over me. Started two new firms because I'm a glutton for punishment. And then I bought out those partners, merged the company together. And now I am selling that firm again. It will be gone in 2 weeks. So we are just about to close on our second sale. And I promise-ish that I might or might not start another firm and sell it again.
All right. If anybody takes the over under, we can play side bets up there. Maybe this is the first conference where
I'm
we're
in Vegas. Make it happen. I've got you. I've got you. I'll get it covered.
sounds good. Well, welcome, Justine.
Thank you.
Congrats, Sharon. I had no idea. So super excited for you. My name is Justine Lackey. I founded one of the first virtual bookkeeping firms in all of North America. That was called Good Sense Bookkeeping, which became Good Sense Management. I ran it for over 15 years and I exited in 2023. I had 28 different buyers approach me to purchase my firm, which was pretty exciting. And in 2022, I actually started a program course mentorship for other bookkeepers and accountants who want to grow and scale their firm. So I took my entire business and essentially put it into a franchise without the franchise fees. So now that's what I do. And I absolutely adore it. I work mostly with moms because I was a single mom, at least in the beginning when I built my firm, got remarried, and it's kind of my sweet spot, what I really love to do.
Awesome. And welcome back, Justine. It feels like every month you're either on a summit, on a podcast. So I'm seeing you every month now. I guess same with Matthew now too. I mean, Sharon, you're going to be on the podcast soon, I guess. Matthew, what's your
Hi, I'm
story?
Matthew May. I had a company for about 12 years called Acuity. And I think this should be like the I kind of sold my firm panel. Like, I don't know how people do it where you like still own part of your firm. So in January, after a 9 month process of figuring out what we're going to do in the third decade of Acuity, we called it Acuity, planning for Acuity 3.0, my business partners and I decided to pick a private equity roll up. So you heard, if you're here, you heard Jason talking about the other side of it. I was on the other side of that on the sell side in January. So traded traded my ownership for ownership in a new place, and obviously some cash. And happy to talk about it and the journey.
Great, great. And we'll go in reverse order, I guess, is the first question. And I know this is kind of a big question. This maybe is a hard question, but start with Matthew and then Justine and Sharon will kind of go in reverse order. I guess what were some of the factors that led you to start exploring or realizing that maybe it was the right time to have some sort of transaction, partial sale, full sale, whatever that may look like?
So we had two big things happen in the same year. Well, one was our 20th anniversary of Acuity, and the second one was everybody that was an owner turned 50.
Okay.
In both of those processes, that kind of initiated just real frank discussions about what the next decade should look like of Acuity. So we had been through two like huge phases. We called it Acuity 1.0 and 2.0. And with AI coming and all the things and turning 50 and being 20 years old, we decided what does the third decade look like? And that prompted us eventually to hire an investment banker and run the 9-month process to evaluate the total ecosystem. So that was the impetus though, turning 20 and then personally turning 50.
And was the idea to always roll into
Nope.
a okay. So it's just like we want to explore options, and the investment bank said, we'll line up all the option for you.
Yeah, we were getting calls. It was beyond every week. It was almost every day from different people peppering us with like, "Hey, sell the company," because we had passed the $10 million revenue mark, which is which is one of the thresholds people look for in the market right now. So we were getting peppered every day, and we just wanted to be really thoughtful about how we approached anything we would potentially do. So we decided to hire a banker. I think the initial thought was that some private equity would invest in us and we would roll up just CAS firms. That's not the option we end up taking, but uh, I think we were really curious to have a thoughtful process to go through to really figure out what's the best for everybody in the.
Yeah, and if there's interest, we can unpack that investment banker relationship too. So keep
Sure.
adding to the Q&A. Justine, what was the moment for you where you're like, you know what, this is the year I'm going to sell?
So, like Matt and Kenji, I was also turning 50. And although Good Sense was only 15 years old, I had actually started doing bookkeeping at 20. So I had 30 years in. It seemed like a good time to retire, but also, you get to 50 and you say, is this what I want to do for the rest of my life? And I knew there was just other ways that I wanted to help. I will be very candid about it because one of the things I like to talk about is the underbelly of running a firm. I don't think we always address that, like how challenging it is. And I had a situation go down with a team member that just really broke my heart. And I was just like, I was talking to another team member and I was like, I don't know. Sometimes I think I should just sell. And she was like, yeah, you should. So it's kind of like a Lion King moment. It was all these different things coming together, and like other people, I was getting solicitations. Some of them felt spammy, but also some of them I did actually go through. I would call it like a very heavy dating process in 2020. So there was already some conversation or background in my head about that. So it was a number of different factors, not just one.
Interesting. Yeah, and just as a side note, I can now imagine there is a group of PE buyers, investment bankers, acquirers that are like, we need to throw 50th birthday parties for every accounting firm. We need to get into the conversation day one. So wherever they're at when they turn 50, we need a host, sponsor, get that birthday party going. So we're the first conversation.
Yeah.
Sharon, what was the moment for you?
Burnout, extreme burnout. Like Justine, my firm has always been remote. And when I decided to grow it, hiring on employees around the US when we didn't really have the software. I mean, what do we have? Skype, log me in. It was a very, very hard process. And also going from an owner where everything was in my head and nothing was documented. We grew and I realized we were growing like a wild weed that could not be tamed. So I finally got to the point where I'm like, I just can't do this anymore. I had just turned 40, so 10 years earlier, and I'm like, I don't want to be stressed like this. My eyebrows were starting to turn gray. Anyhow, so just decided that it was just I didn't know what I was going to do. And I had 3 firms come up to me during COVID and ask if they could buy my firm. And I was like, I didn't know this was a thing. Ended up selling to private equity, stayed on as like Matt saying, as co-founder and president. And then that's where I decided, okay, I'm not meant to be told what to do. My daddy didn't raise me that way. So yeah, it was just, I was done. This second time, I, I, I beat the system. I've done it before. I knew what to do, and well, that's not true. The first couple years, I set up my company to fail again, my accounting firm. And then I came back and I thought, Sharon, you teach this. You go to conferences and you teach people how to do these things, and you're not listening to yourself. So I went back in, honestly, just last year in October, and started taking my own advice, shrinking it down, and just got it to the point where I'm like, this thing runs on its own now. I spend 3 hours a week in it. I'm out. So I'm at this point, I feel like I just want to help other people on it. So honestly, combination of just seeing and Matt over there.
So just a quick follow-up. When you say take your own advice and shrink it down, were you trimming the client base to maybe your A clients, or what did that mean for you?
No, overstaffed first. We just were bringing in people because we needed help, but we weren't realizing why we needed help. I have a lot of stuff has happened personally in my life the past couple of years that just kind of put me on the wrong path, not the wrong path, but just I wasn't involved in my accounting firm. And then once I got it down to the employees that were part of my team, an integral part of my team, then we sat down together and said, okay, now what do we do? We realized it was technology, it was outsourcing, we found the missing pieces and got to the point to where I had all of these people that were working 40, 50 hours a week, and now I'm down to two that work 30, 35, and me who works 3. So obviously the system works.
Got it. Got it. Great. And I did want to have a quick follow-up. So folks, again, ask in the Q&A, somebody says, will this be recorded? You bet, Mary. We are recording these sessions as well. I guess, Matthew, help us unpack, I guess, when you hired this investment banker and you were looking at Acuity 3.0, you weren't sure what result you were going to end up with. I guess in hindsight, between you and the fellow owners, how did you, I guess, create or gain alignment on where to ultimately go with Acuity during this 9-month process?
Yeah, gradually. It was really gradual. So I think the bankers were great from our perspective because the first 4 months they just helped us do the preparation and basically evaluated the landscape. So one of the key things was we knew that they had scoured and talked to about 250 people in the market, right? And then at the end of that process, they got that down to a manageable number to us where 11 groups submitted IOIs. And that's where, like, when the IOIs came in, that's when everything started to be like, oh, this is what's real. Like, these are the real possibilities in today's landscape. And once it becomes real, we're able to have real conversations with each other about this is the real population. Are any of these interesting to you? I think that's the first step. We got some just phenomenal advice before we picked 7 of them to come into Atlanta and physically come so we could present to them for like 4 to 6 hours each. And before those meetings, the banker said, in this process, you all individually have to decide what you want to do because like we do not want you to pick an outcome that you're not going to be happy with. So they guided us through that thought process. So when those people came to those meetings, we told them this is the company, but this is what each of the 4 of us plans to do day one, right? We didn't say, what do you want us to do? Which had been our approach before, like, oh, we could do so many things. I'm good at this and good at this. It was like, nope, we want to do this. Like Matthew wants to do this, Kenji wants to do this, Patty wants to do this, Lisa wants to do this, and this is what we're good at. And that was a big turning point in helping frame that. And that was about a 30-day period where that got real.
Yeah. Tactical follow-up. If people were flying into Atlanta, how would you facilitate those meetings without, did the broader staff know these conversations were happening, and or like typically
No.
people would kind of, yeah, not expose that.
So yeah, I mean, that was one of the toughest parts for those people that have ever known me, of like not telling people everything all the time, all at once. But 2 people outside the ownership team knew that this was going on until close internally. We had just had friends that cratered the day before close or the day of close, and like they had told people, and it was like this chaos. What's wrong with us? And we couldn't afford to do that to them. Like, so we decided when it's real, like, which is when it's signed, that's when we'll tell people. So people have that certainty. Now we talked about 3.0 a lot with everybody. So we weren't hiding that we were thinking about the future and all the possibilities. And we always talked about looking at all the possibilities. But it was quite the surprise to our senior leadership team and our staff when we signed in January.
Got it. Justine, looking back at your process, was there anything you would have done differently as you were lining up the sale of your firm?
You mean besides tax planning and moving out of New York State? uh,
Had those two?
Yeah, I just want to make a point about what Matthew said because we were on a firm exit panel last week because they sold to PE, but I did not. I worked with a broker. But what was so extraordinary is how parallel our stories were. Even though, you know, they had a huge team and my team was only 6. So it's just something to keep in mind that when we're saying, you know, vetting your people, going through this process, taking your time, figuring out what's next, that applies no matter what size you are. And you know, what would I do different? um I'm very proud of how I handled the transition and the sale. You know, I worked really, really hard on the transition itself because I saw so many firms go crash and burn as they sold, you know, accountants just leaving, no communication, unresolved tax issues, employees who were just like angry and upset and had no idea what their job looked like, who their boss was. And I have always focused on what I call like the 5-star customer experience. Like, how can we make bookkeeping and accounting luxurious? Like a real, like the, you know, the 4 seasons. And I refined that process over time. So when it came to my transition, I also wanted that. And so we created transition guides for the employees, for the clients. I got on Zoom. We sent out PDFs, we sent out emails. I talked through things. So I'm happy with it. I think the only thing that, like, looking back, there was an interesting panel at Bridging the Gap last week about alternative to PE, and people have sort of like franchises, and you know, you can do owner employee owned. I might, if I was thinking about over a 5-year term, maybe I would have explored something like that. But overall, I was happy. I was happy with my broker, and but my advice would be to just take your time. You know, that's really important.
All right, awkward follow-up question, depending on who you say. Who is your broker if you had such a good experience with them?
So I worked with Daryl Boyd at Poe Group Advisors. So he's up in Canada. Yeah, and I think that they really helped me dial in the type of person that I wanted to sell to. And to Matt's point, where he said, you know, we had 250 people and the private bankers like filtered those out. That's your broker should also do that for you. Like, filter out the people who don't have the money, don't have the learning experience. So they had a very detailed onboarding process that I think really, really helped.
Yeah, I love that. Sharon, in your journey, now going through it multiple times, aside from your practice structure, which was set up, it sounded like much different, so you were very hands-off when you sold it. Was there anything you did differently in the second acquisition to, you know, make the process more efficient? Or, you know, I think the multiples would have obviously been better with better systems, but I guess what did you do differently your second time around with your sale?
Well, the first thing I did was ensure that my contracts were written to where I did not have to get a physical signature from every client approving that I sell them. So that was number one, is make sure that my
That happened in
contracts were
the first
the first one,
transaction.
my
You had to go to
contracts
every
were written
client.
that I had to give them 30-day notice and they had to sign. And that honestly destroyed so much of my sale. I had no idea. I didn't think who in 2006, I'm starting a bookkeeping business. No one's thinking I'm going to sell. I didn't even think I had anything to sell. So this time, no, 100% transferable. You're working with me. I'm sending you to the lowest bidder at any point in time. I kid. The second thing is I'm also a very transparent person, and I wanted to tell my team right away. I thought they'd be so excited, and here's all this opportunity. This company has they have this money, they're going to give you raises, they're going to do all these things. And they had a different idea. Some of them decided, well, we're going to get together with some of these clients that don't like this and we're going to take them and go over here. So, we had some side situations that happened.
In your
So
first sale.
this
in your
time
first
I
sale.
made in the first one. The second one, I was smart enough to get my director of operations, who actually was with me through the first one and went through that nightmare with me on this second one. I told her exactly what I was doing. I'm like, okay, so you're going to go with this company, just so you know. And she's okay with that. But I said, you got to help me pick the buyer. And so we actually sat down at Scaling. Woodard has a buy sell program, and Todd hooked me up with somebody. So we talked to a few people and we sat down and interviewed them all. And I said, you're going with them. I know who I want to choose. Money isn't really the thing. It was more of the longevity of the firm and my clients and my team, who had now followed me across how many firms. I don't want them showing up at my doorstep. So we kind of chose who we chose together, and it has been the most pleasant experience. I almost forget that I'm selling the firm right now, but then I remember as soon as we just sign off, I just kind of dissipate into the background and she just takes over. My team is already set. They don't really need me. They want me, but they don't need me. So honestly, just learning the hard way, what not to do, it helps you go through it again.
Yeah. Given the, it's interesting, in your first sale, you had essentially I don't know if you would characterize it, but a mutiny that happened, or by telling everybody very early on. But then you'd mentioned that at least your director of operations came to your the subsequent firm and maybe even others. So I guess help me understand. I guess I'm assuming they weren't part of the mutiny, and they were like, and then when you started the band back up again, was it easy to kind of bring them back for round two?
They came for me. So as soon as I exited the company, I said, guys, I can't do this. I'm sorry. They said, Sharon, no, we followed you here. We've been with you for this long. Where you're going, we're going. And I thought, okay, I better start another accounting firm because my clients are mad at me and my team's mad at me. And so that's how I ended up with two more accounting firms. So whenever I lay my head on my pillow at night and I think, did I do something? Did I do it right? I always think, okay, these clients and these team members have followed me and they've stayed with me. So we're doing something right around here. And this time has really been just the proof that it did work and it is working. And it's honestly just been such a smooth transaction because our processes are so tight and so everything just works so smooth that my team's like, okay, the gal that's buying the firm is actually bringing her clients and her processes into our processes. So it's just going to be a much better experience. And I'm going to stay on for 90 days to help. And then I think I'm going to stay on a little bit as a fractional CFO for a couple of the clients I've been involved with a little bit. But so I'll still be in the ecosystem to, jab at them, or more so than me.
Yeah, absolutely. So Kimberly asked, how did you get the deal without the 90-day transfer rule? But it sounds like you just mentioned you are there for 90 days. Kimberly, if that doesn't answer your question, let me know, but I'm going to mark that one as answered. We'll pass the puck, the ball, whatever sport you like. Back to we'll go Justine. Kyle asked, we'll go around all the panelists. Uh, would you mind talking about the tech stack and systems? What tools are you relying on to manage your tech stack, employees, client files? Maybe we'll go with maybe the top 3 or 4, I suppose. Justine, we'll go Justine, Matthew, Sharon.
Um, sure. So, my firm was one of the first to flip entirely to QuickBooks Online. I am a big foodie, and I made a decision early on that I was only going to do one thing and do it exceptionally well, and that was bookkeeping using QuickBooks Online. So we didn't do Xero, we didn't do FreshBooks. That was the only thing that we focused on. We used Harvest for time tracking. I know time tracking is like, well, you just did the study on time, David. It's the pariah of our industry, but we used Harvest. We used ShareFile before they were bought out by Citrix. It was a cold call, and I was like, oh my God, this thing sounds amazing because we were all moms. We were all working virtually. And then of course G Suite. Those were and then LastPass was our password management software. I don't know if I would use that now if I was running an accounting firm. They've hit some speed bumps and hiccups, but I'm always happy to talk tech stack stuff. That's one of the things that I love talking about is tech and talking shop, David, to your point about me. I'm on a lot of these things, and I really enjoy talking just about the industry and helping others. So yeah.
Wonderful. Matthew, what did that look like on your end?
So we used kind of a homegrown solution. So we used the core technology is called Process Street. So it's like a process enabling software that helps connect multiple systems. So our backend stack was Salesforce for the CRM. We had PandaDoc for proposals. We had PandaDoc gluing everything together between Zapier, Airtable, and PandaDoc. But right now we're in the process of streamlining tools. So we've just actually about because I stayed on, so I'm running a bigger team now. So we just picked a new practice management software. So we're kind of all moving to the same new practice management software now. So
What'd
Nice.
you pick?
How many owners? Oh, go ahead.
we picked
I want to
Carbon.
know what you picked.
We picked Carbon for our backend. So
Nice. And how many owners stayed on post sale? Because you said you did stay
two
on.
out of four left
Okay.
day one. So the other two of us stayed on to run the county services practice. So there's about a 225 person county service practice. Our team was half of that, and so Lisa and I stayed on to run the county services practice.
Awesome. We might transition, folks. This is, if you're listening, this is kind of dependent on you. My thought is maybe after Sharon's answer, we'll transition to what happens after you ink the deal and that integration and what was the experience like. Unless you have questions, otherwise, but that's where my head's going. So if you have questions, be sure to ask them. But Sharon, what did your tech stack look like?
My first one was crazy because it was 2006. We won't even touch that. Let's talk about the successful one. We use Client Hub. It's our main for everything, files, signing, client communication. We don't let our clients talk to us outside Client Hub. We use Google Suite. We use OnePass. Rippling is our complete HR backend system for everything, and then Anchor. So and then we are only QuickBooks Online, and then ProConnect. We won't let them in with anything else just for efficiency. So that tends to work for us. And I have over 250 Zaps. So, and Slack. I'm a big Zap writer. I'm
Okay.
trying to learn Make right now. Woo! That's a different world, but I'm going to figure it out.
Yeah, I love that. In terms of inking the deal, I guess Sharon, will stay with you. What I mean, I know you're about to go through it as well, but what in the first sale, what changed from running your firm to kind of day one of being in a new firm? What did that new integration process look like?
Well, the one thing I learned during all this is that if it's not in writing, it's not going to happen. So all these hopes and dreams on Zoom phone calls of all these wonderful things that we're going to do, I should have got it in writing, because once the ink dried, it was a completely different world. I got moved into business development and stripped away from my accounting team, and that wasn't successful at all. My team wasn't allowed to talk to me anymore. It was really, really rough. And when you're walking into something like that with your hopes and dreams and not in writing, you're not really you're not caring about what the future may or may not hold. Well, my future held that if I was to leave this company, I cannot touch anything in accounting for 6 months. Nothing, not even for free. I can't start another firm for 4 years, and I can't touch any of my clients or my team for 10 years. But I didn't worry about that because I'm going to stay on with this company forever. But as soon as I got in there and I realized I've got all these bosses, this board, I realized it wasn't for me. And I exited and sat on my hands for 6 months.
But you couldn't start another firm, or did you work and the team, or?
I'm trying to say this without getting sued. Let's just say that there were some other things that happened, and I was it all ended amicably, and everybody went happy on their own way, and I was released and allowed to own a firm again and work with my clients again.
Okay, so there's a way. There's always a way, right?
And there's a chance.
Because I will incriminate myself. No, there's no incrimination. It's just it ended amicably.
Okay, good. Matthew, this
Everyone's laughing. They're like, yeah, we know what she's saying.
You know what I'm thinking? I'm thinking there's nobody who can say things delicately more than or non-answery than politicians, than accountants and
I know what
bookkeepers.
I'm allowed to say, Justine. I was given a paragraph of what I'm allowed to say. It ended amicably, and everybody moved
Girl,
along.
you did a
happily.
beautiful job. Right. Bravo.
Justine, on your end, what was the experience like, post ink drying? What did that next 30 days look like on your end?
57 days after I sold my firm, my father had a major heart attack. He's still alive, but I kind of feel like it was divine timing. I thought I was gonna like go and just chill out and eat bonbons for a little while, but I so happy that I had the time, freedom, space, and money to just be present for my dad. My daughter was also graduating high school. And so, I mean, family is wildly important. And one thing I will say, because you're like, oh, what would you do differently? Or like, what are some pro tip pointers? I don't know where QuickBooks is at with this now, but one of the things I would 100% do if I started a firm again is keep my QuickBooks Online file like separate from my QBOA account from my clients, because we had 100 clients and we had to manually transfer these over to the new firm. And it took almost 57 of those days to do that. So I wish I just had the keys and be like, boop, here's the password to the QBOA account. You have the 100 files. But I couldn't do that because all of my finances for the past 15 years, including my payroll records, which you have to retain, were all sitting in this QBOA account. So supposedly at that time, QuickBooks had a mass transfer tool. At me and the other firm owner were just like not willing to risk it. So, but I knew what my what's next was because I had launched my incubator program in 2022, which at the time was a year. I didn't think it was going to take me 18 months to relaunch it, but we've run it several times. We've had hundreds of people go through the program now. But I have heard that's an issue for people where they think they want to sell, they have burnout, and then they get to the other side of it and they don't have a plan. And it can be really, really hard for people. So I think it is important that you know what you're going to do afterwards, that's going to be rewarding to you. So
Yeah, well said. Now, Matthew, on your end, you've kind of alluded to. Well, let me confirm something for you, because we have the tech stack from Sharon and Justine. They were like QuickBooks Online, nothing else. Was that the same with Acuity
No, we're
as well?
QBO 0, so we're about 70/30.
Okay. That said, so you inked the deal Q1 of this year. You already alluded to, you're like, we had 100 people, and voila, now you have 225. So help me understand what day one and that transitions look like, because it sounds like you've only kind of ramped things up in kind of
Yeah.
your core responsibilities.
Yeah, day one, two, three, and four were on the phone convincing all of my employees that they still had jobs. So for whatever reason, when you do a transaction and private equity comes in, everybody thinks they're going to get fired. It's just not the case with professional services, right? There's like the whole asset value of the professional services firm or the client servicing team. So like, but still, like everybody goes to like, this is going to affect me and my family. So first 4 or 5 days was just solid on the phone with people, just talking them off a ledge. So then we were the 10th or 11th firm in, I can't remember, in a 12-month period for this private equity firm. We have 14 now and 5 under LOI, just to give you a sense for my life. And they hadn't done any integration on the accounting services team. So my job then, because I took the job of running the entire CAS practice, was to get on a plane. And for the next 40 days, I visited all 10 offices and just met people and did an assessment and told those people they're not losing their jobs, right? So you're just like constantly telling people for about 100 days that they're not losing their job, because everybody in the media and everything else is just like private equity is just going to cut and cut and cut and cut. And then as a part of that process, I was supposed to build a national recommendation for what the CAS practice should look like going into 2026. So then I learned about red tape and learned about all the constituents. And at that time, we had 12 firm owners that we all were used to not asking for permission for anything. So like, just not, it wasn't red tape. It was just we had to cumulatively figure out how we were going to make decisions on things. So that process took kind of the whole first quarter, and then we had that recommendation, and we've been executing ever since on that vision.
Technical follow-up, because yeah, I think it's such an important note. You're used to kind of operating in one lane, but now you have 12 owners. So what was how did you come up with a decision-making framework that you could then execute by?
Well,
Uh,
we came in month 13 or month 12 or 13 of the process. So a lot of the like initial pieces of that had been that framework had started to be laid. And then I was one of the last additions to the executive team, right?
Okay.
So then like you throw me in there, who's kind of a wild card, I guess, because we did everything different. We're the first remote firm in there. Everybody else was like in office. We didn't even know what to do. They're like, what do we call you? Like everybody else is like market, like because they were trying to get rid of the old names, and they're like, so that one's Santa Rosa and that one's Houston. What do we even call? And this is like, do we
Earth.
call
We
you
call you
remote or like what? And like Atlanta. Well, like how many people are in Atlanta? And I was like, I don't know how many people are in Atlanta. Like I have no idea. Like I don't know, somebody can run a report maybe. So there's just all kinds of fun, interesting stuff that we did to break the matrix when we came in.
Got it, got it. Yeah, and just for folks who haven't been following the chat, Marcus mentioned that Intuit has a new tool to transfer between QBOA accounts now. And Todd Robinson from Woodard's on. Todd, we got to get you at one of these summits. I always see you. We had Deb at our cast one, so Todd, we gotta bring you out for this for the next one, and we're doing one every quarter, so it's good to see you. I guess as we wrap up, again, let me know if you have any more questions. We'll kind of wrap up. What's one piece, if somebody's listening right now and they're like, oh, I'm really thinking I should put some time into, getting the process together, selling my firm, or really debating this. I guess we'll go kind of around the horn. What's one piece of parting advice you would give to somebody listening who's kind of thinking about going through a transaction? We'll just go Shannon, Justine, and Matthew on this one.
Yeah, so look at your contracts. Go to a contract or go to an M&A expert lawyer, and I know a few of you need any, and have them look through your contract and let them know what's going to happen, and make sure you have a plan for yourself and expect the worst. Honestly, I don't care how close you are to your team, your clients, I don't care how long you've worked for them. Panic sets in when they think they're being sold, and one thing people don't realize is that you sell your firm, you don't sell your team. People aren't for sale. So every one of them can walk away. And if that can destroy your firm during this process, your firm could be destroyed and you have no recourse. So please just go into it very delicately. Seek an advisor or an attorney. An attorney is going to help you legally, but somebody who's been through it before. It looks like Justine advises on it now. I advise. I don't think Matt's allowed to advise on any of this stuff anymore. He has to stay in his firm. But go to somebody who's been through it. What'd you say?
I said we're buying, so I can help him out.
There you go. He's buying.
There you
So
go.
go to Justine and we will help you make sure Matt doesn't screw you over. That's what we're gonna do. So just get some help. Don't go in it alone if you've never done it. I'm telling you, you don't know what you don't know until you know it.
Yeah, absolutely. And be sure to reach out to Sharon if you want the attorney recommendations. We are having
Yes.
Sarah Sharp talk at 1:30 or 2 o'clock today with Shannon Hayes. So she's an attorney and she's been doing a lot of transactions. And so could also be a great question for her. But there are, of course, more out there. No formal affiliation with Sarah, but she is speaking later. So come with your contract questions to that talk. Justine, what would be some parting advice you would give our listeners?
I'm always happy to help people. That's my life's mission, is I help the world by helping people. So you can find me on LinkedIn. Just look for Justine Lackey. I think that education is really important. It's just like when you go to buy or sell a home, you should start to watch the market. The market will go up and down for firms. Right now, it's really hot. But attending summits like this, reaching out to other people who have been through the process on both sides, selling and buying, It's really important you develop your relationships with your attorney. You know, my attorney had been with me for 10 years, and actually I think I gave her inspiration because she ended up selling and exiting right after I did. But uh yeah, I think just taking your time and really figuring out, you know, how do you what legacy do you want to leave? You know, it was really important to me that I sold to a buyer who I knew, I deeply trusted, and I knew was going to take care of my team and my clients. That was important to me as an individual. And then if you want to work with a broker, you know, reach out. I'm happy to give you an introduction to mine. Yeah, yeah, and then you will go through the selling hokey pokey, where I was like, I'm selling, I'm not, I'm selling, I'm not. You know, it's like right foot in, right foot out, and that was, you know, that's just part of the process. It's exhilarating and terrifying at the same time.
Yeah, yeah. Well said. Matthew, if somebody's in that position, is thinking about selling or about to start the process, what's some advice you would give to them?
Um, I'm always about being intentional. So like just if it's something you're seriously considering, like be intentional. That intentionality for me came in really thinking about like what I wanted out of the process. So for me, it was being debt free. Like that was a thing, like not guaranteeing debt anymore and not having any debt. Like that was my envelope thing where you put an envelope and said like this must have the outcome of being debt free where I don't have to use my line of credit to fund the company when we have bad turns, right? So that was one of mine. And then the other thing I wanted was I wasn't done, but I did like having like in my prime, like negotiated a deal to where I had liquidity and understood the way I would transition the firm and just having that known. That unknown was starting to weigh on me really, really heavily. So in that case, that's why private equity was a fit for our deal, because we had the ability to stay with a mechanism in place to transition the firm in leadership and all of those things built in. So, but that came out of just a personal journey of being intentional and thinking about what do I want? What does this process look like? So I would encourage you to talk to your
Yeah.
spouse, talk to your counselor, talk to your business partners, probably in that order, and figure out what those things are for you and as you go through the journey.
Amazing. Well, I appreciate Matthew, your time, Justine, your time, Sharon, your time. Please reach out to the folks here. Give them a shout out on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, wherever social media finds you. I really appreciate the time today. We're going to take well, I guess for some lunch break, coffee break, bio break, whatever you need. Just as a reminder of what's coming up next. Each one of these are unique Zoom links. So if you didn't get those, I can paste a reference sheet in here, but we're going to talk to Nishad from the Ascend group. He's gonna show what it's like to operate in the trenches of the PE model. So he's the president at Ascend, and he's talking at 1 p.m. Eastern. 1:30, that's where we talked. You know, I said Sarah's an attorney that does M&A work with accounting firms. So her and Shannon Hay, arguably has done the most transactions that are SBA loan funded. We're going to talk about ways to finance acquisitions, deal terms to be on the lookout for. On the other side of the PE coin, we have Jen Wilson talking about what to ask before taking on PE. We've talked so much about integrations, how to make them successful, what do they look like. We have Ashley coming on at 2:30. And then last but not least, 3 p.m., we wrap up with 4 buyers of accounting firm, some PE backed, some not. We're going to talk with them about the structures that they do deals in and kind of what they're seeing in today's market. Again, as a reminder, each session has a unique Zoom link. I will put a reference Google Sheet in here. So again, people are asking, you should have the invites, you should have the calendar invites. But just for fun, last minute, I dropped them into a Google Doc, so you have no excuses on where are the invites. Everybody should know the Zoom links are. So I'm going to drop this in here. Again, thank you to our panelists. Please reach out to them. Say thank you to them for coming on. I'll see everybody in 15 minutes for the next round of sessions. And everybody else, enjoy the rest of your Tuesday.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
David. That was fun. Bye, friends. Good to
Appreciate
see
it.
y'all.
Bye.
Take care. Bye.